Okay, we're all set. Welcome everyone to the May 5th meeting of the Government Operations Committee. I believe we have 4 of our 5 committee members and lots of guests and friends. So thanks everyone for being here. Changes to the agenda. I am gonna sort of reorder things a little bit as we go because some people are here now, some people might be leaving. So bear with me. I do want to move the library presentation up after we do the minutes approval. So we'll get them going and then we'll move on to our other discussions. Are there any other changes to the agenda? I believe actually Darby had sent a updated foreclosure report you should have gotten in your email, which I'm sure she'll explain to us. And there's also an updated version of the virtual public meetings law, which if you're here, there's printed copies. I think it was also sent on email. Greg is nodding. Okay. Any comments from the public, Brittany? No? Let's do the advisory board appointment. Let's see if I can find it. We have a couple of appointments. Historical Commission, Susan Holland, term expires December 31st, 2024. And Board of Assessment Review, Michael Cannon, term expires September 30th, 2026. Can I have somebody move those? Dan moves, Greg seconds. Any questions or comments? It's a little weird sitting here because I have to look both ways and up at the screen. Okay, let's go ahead and vote on that. Greg?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Let's take the minutes of March 3rd. Can somebody move those? Dan, Travis seconds. Any questions or changes on the minutes? All right, let's vote. Greg?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I'm yes. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and go to our library folks who are here in large numbers. It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I'll just introduce Teresa Vatican, our, I think you go by Assistant Director of the Public Library. So, and you can introduce the other folks and take it away.
Of course. So joining me today are Jennifer Schlossberg, Head of Access Services, Sarah O'Shea, Head of Youth Services, and Megan Malloy, Head of Adult Services. And we're just here really to talk about 2022 and what the library's been doing and how we've enhanced services, changed services, and all that. So Jen is going to share the screen. We have a little presentation. Just a moment here. Everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so the library in 2022. I think 2022 has been a great year. I think we have seen return to normalcy. We have had to shift guidance a couple times with masks. We've gone from required to optional to encouraged, and I think we just follow the Tompkins County guidelines, and that's been really helpful with the health department. So thank you for that. We've also, our programming, we've done hybrid, outdoor, indoor, virtual. So I think we have a lot of options for programming and meeting people where they are right now, which has been really good. And I don't see that changing. I think outdoor programming, hybrid is here to stay. So next slide. First, I want to really thank you all for the partial restoration of funding. This has allowed us to add back some FTE positions. In fact, we've gone back to 40. During the pandemic in 2020, we were at like 36.9. So we have been able to get back to a good staffing level. And so we've added a specific staff member named Woody Chichester, who is handling promotions and engagement. So I encourage you, if you see the social media or if you're on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook or TikTok, you can thank Woody and Asia for that because they handle all that. And we have a really great TikTok page, I have to say. They're fun videos. I would encourage you to check them out. They're all about library operations and programs, but they make me laugh. And I think we get them through email from Woody when they post them. So the restoration of funding also helped us maintain library operations, so that's very much appreciated. Another big thing that came back this year, and that is thanks to all of you, we were able to restore our Sunday hours. I also want to give a big shout out to the Friends of the Tompkins County Public Library, as well as the town of Ithaca. We couldn't have done this without you, but this is the first time in 2 years that we've actually been open on Sundays. And I know the community loves us. It allows us to do more programming for families, children, adults. We've had 1,964 visitors between March 13th and May 1st. And we've checked out over 3,533 items on Sundays. So I know they're important. I know the community loves them. And we have a nice banner outside to advertise that we're open on Sundays. Those will carry through into the fall as well. We've also been a big part of the mask and test kit distribution from the county. I thank you for that. And I know it's helped all the Tompkins County libraries as well as the other sites that are doing this. We've had great success. In the winter, when it started, we went outside. We had staff members like going to the bus stops. I think we really encouraged a lot of people that might not normally use the library to let us know what we're about and that we do provide masks, whether they be adult, kid-sized, or COVID test kits. And being out there in the cold, we had hot chocolate for the staff, but it was so wonderful, the appreciation the community had for these mask and test kits. And we still have them in the Avenue of the Friends up near the circulation desk so people can take them. We've handed out 17,650 adult masks as well as 2,000 adult or U-size masks. And we've almost handed out 10,000 at-home COVID test kits. And patrons, when we run out, patrons are asking, when are they coming back? So that's been really a great service. And we're happy we could help in like reducing COVID and pandemic assistance. So thank you for that. I'm gonna let Jen Schlossberg, Head of Access Services, talk about the numbers.
Hi, I'm Jen Schlossberg, Head of Access Services, and I get to talk about the numbers before you get to see some of the really creative things that my colleagues have done with programming, etc. Like Teresa said, we have definitely seen an increase in usage this year, which has been really wonderful. I did a snapshot from January through April for 2019 pre-COVID numbers, and then through the pandemic up until 2022. And you'll see with the circulation of materials, we've definitely seen an increase. And it's good to see the numbers that match anecdotally what we see at the service desks, because we have definitely seen an increase in usage at our various service desks. In addition to that, we also have seen an increase in our new card registrations. So, you know, again, pre-COVID numbers, we're not quite there yet, but we have definitely increased our membership this year. Just the first 4 months, once COVID hit, we started doing a lot more online registrations for library cards, and that has continued. So people can fill out a form online and they just stop in and we have their card ready for them. So that's been really wonderful to see new patrons coming in, new community members who are excited to see what the library is all about. So one of the programs that we have expanded this year is our library by mail program. Initially, it was called Books by Mail. We started it back several years ago, pre-COVID, and we worked with Food Net Meals on Wheels. We gave them the applications, and they basically vetted. It was a vetted population, right? So they were able to distribute the applications. It was a nice size community that we could test the service to see the popularity, also to work out any, some of the details of offering a service like that. So what we do is people can request materials. We mail them 2 items in the mail, and then we also pay for the return postage. We have some nice mailer bags that are reusable. So pre-COVID, like I said, we were just doing the Meals on Wheels folks, but then in February, what we did is we decided to expand the service to anybody in Tompkins County that is unable to get to the library. So it could be because they are truly homebound and just generally do not leave their home. It can be because they have concerns about COVID and are uncomfortable visiting the library. It could also be because they have maybe a temporary disability, perhaps they broke their leg or something, and it's just something for a very limited amount of time where they would like to have materials sent to them. So you can see in February, that's when we expanded the service. We tried to streamline the process a little bit too. We started doing a lot of promotion during the month of February, and then you see from February to March, the purple bar, the numbers went up quite a bit. And so we were really excited to see that. We've been doing outreach. In fact, I went to the Mac and Cheese Bowl last night for Meals on Wheels, and we set up a table and we got the word out some more. We have some nice promotional materials. So I expect to see this service continuing to get a lot of usage. We did have a patron just recently who had hip surgery. She was a regular patron that came in the library. There was a very limited amount of time that she wanted the service. So we were able to mail the materials to her. And it was nice to see her back in the library just this past week. She has recovered and was just thrilled that we were able to continue to get materials to her, even when she couldn't get to the library. Okay, and now I'm going to pass the presentation over to Sarah O'Shea.
Sarah, you're muted. Sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Teresa. All right, I'll try that again. So in youth services, we've definitely been adding new services and resources for the community. But what has really excited me lately is seeing things that we had regularly done pre-COVID that we had to stop, and now they're coming back. So one of those things is the Kids Discover the Trail program. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is a program through the Discovery Trail. And all of the grades, pre-K through 5th grade, come and visit a site on the Discovery Trail. Our particular grade that we welcome at the library is the kindergartners. So we welcome all of the Ithaca City School District and Trumansburg School District kindergartners to come visit the library. There are many other school districts that visit other sites as well, but these are the ones that come to us. We're actually in the process of working with our member libraries to have the kids in other school districts visit their neighborhood library. So we're excited about getting that up and running. But in terms of here at TCPL, we've been hosting the program since I believe it began in 2005. Every year we have over 400 kindergartners come through the building. Of course, the last 2 years, it's been virtual. Kai Zhang, our librarian who runs that program for us, did a wonderful job pivoting to virtual, but there's nothing like in person, especially when you're dealing with kindergartners. So we have been thrilled this spring to welcome back the kindergartners to the library. The program we offer them is literacy-based, and it's developed using the New York State kindergarten curriculum. We offer a story time, puppet show, songs, all sorts of things like that, as well as a tour of the children's department. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for us to help support that curriculum, particularly for these young kids that, don't know anything other than COVID school. So, so it's great to bring back something like this, field trips and that sort of thing to the kids. And it just brings so much energy and fun into the library. It's really exhilarating. Another thing that we're seeing return to the library, which is just wonderful, is our outreach efforts. Outreach is a huge part of youth services. We truly do believe in meeting people where they are, whether that be at their location, welcoming to the library, somewhere in between, whatever works for them. We want to make sure that they know we want to reach them. Pre-COVID, we had regular outreach visits that unfortunately had to take a pause for the last couple of years. But in the last few months, we have started to make arrangements to bring a lot of that back. So for instance, we're taking a sensory story time back to Racker in the downtown Ithaca Child Care Center. We regularly did a monthly sensory story time for those programs, and we're thrilled to start those back up. To keep everybody safe involved, we're doing them outdoors for now, and we will see how things go in terms of location for that, but we're excited for that to continue. We also just learned that the Global Roots Play School, which is for immigrant families and English as a second language learners, has reopened. They had closed over COVID and have now reemerged as a sort of outdoor play group meetup type situation. And we've reached out to them as well to offer our services of a story time and bringing the summer learning information to their families. So that's another thing we're thrilled about. We have continued fairly regularly our weekly visits with GIAC. On occasion, they come to the library, but often we go to them at their location. One of our librarians, Kate DeVoe, she fills up her wagon full of books and activities and crafts, and she heads down the road to GIAC and always comes back with wonderful anecdotes from the kids. So that's always wonderful to hear from her. Another thing that's coming back this summer is our in-person ICSD classroom visits for our summer learning program. This is also known as a summer reading program. We like to expand it to summer learning because although it heavily involves reading, it's also just in general learning, bonding with a family, having opportunities to visit their library and do various learning activities, whether that's reading or STEAM activities, that sort of thing. And we are able to return back into some of the classrooms in person, bringing a free gift book to all of the grades that we visit in the Ithaca City School District. And all of the students will receive a free gift book, as well as any patrons that come into the library. We also work with daycare centers and summer camps to make sure all the kids in our community have at least that one free book to get them started reading. And we can do that in thanks to the Tompkins County Community Foundation and the Rosen Grant. So we really appreciate that.
All right. I'm Megan Malloy, and I'm the head of adult services. I'm going to talk to you about some of our department's new outreach programs. The first one is Alternatives Federal Credit Union Tax Help Program. Our digital lab librarian, Tom Fredette, partnered with AFCU to provide free professional tax assistance to patrons making less than $57K. The program was available to residents of Tompkins and Cortland counties, and appointments were made with the help of 211. We held 3 6-hour sessions per week for 2 months, and each patron that participated was able to get 1 hour of one-on-one time for tax advice and just help on completing all of their forms, figuring out what kind of forms they need, all of those kind of things. We were able to serve a total of 377 patrons through the program, and we got a lot of great feedback from people saying that they really valued the help and that they wouldn't have been able to afford it otherwise. Next slide. And a brand new big outreach program that we just started is Telehealth. We are partnering with Cayuga Health and the Human Coalition Services of Tompkins County to help patrons access online doctor's appointments. The library is contributing our space and equipment. HCS is providing the volunteers to help run the program, and Cuga Medical takes care of providing the access to doctors. We set up an enclosed kiosk in the library where volunteers can help patrons sign up for their appointments, as well as help with signing up for low-cost health insurance if they don't currently have it. The patrons can then go to one of our private study rooms to use one of our iPads for their telehealth visit. They Zoom in with the doctor and have their visit that way. This program allows us to help reach underserved communities to secure access to medical care and health insurance in a way that we really haven't done before. And we hope that it can make a real difference in the community. The programs that we've discussed today is really just a small sampling of what we offer. As a library, we have been focusing on providing programming for underserved and diverse audiences, and I think that this list represents that. Some of our recent other endeavors include Literacy Inside and Out, which is our outreach to the Tompkins County Jail, expanding our outreach to the community of Enfield, Spotlight Africa for tweens, Summer Learning Program for all ages, interlibrary loan services through Cornell University Lending, which helped replace our out-of-system ILL services, Girls Who Code and Robotics Club Robot Rally, Spanish Storytime, and Chinese Storytime at Cornell's Hasbrook Apartments.
So I want to thank you all for having us here today, and we really appreciate it. Thank you to Megan, Sarah, and Jen for a wonderful presentation and highlighting all that the library is doing. And we can take any questions that you have.
Great. Thank you so much, all of you. That was very informative and colorful. You have very colorful slides. Anybody have questions or comments? Mike Lane.
I had a couple. What a great presentation. Thank you all. Terrific. And it's great to see TCPL back. I just wondered, and maybe Jen can answer this, your cards, you said the numbers are up. How long do you keep a card before you purge it when like someone's not using it every day?
Right. So if a card has not been used for 3 years, we do a purge every like January, February. But so if they are using either materials in the library or our Overdrive service, which is our ebook, audiobook, the downloadables, that all goes towards a card being active. So if nothing has been used for 3 years, we will purge it.
So in those numbers, then there might be people who've been purged and have come back.
Those numbers are new registrations. That's not our total patron database.
Oh,
Patron database is much larger.
okay. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
The other question I wondered at the end here about, you were talking about story times for children and adults in other languages. Do we have requests for even more of those in different languages?
We have not had specific requests that I have heard. We are fortunate to have a Chinese-speaking staff member who does our Chinese story time, and we have a volunteer that comes in to do Spanish story time. If we have other volunteers that are willing to offer story times in other languages, we would be more than happy to make arrangements with that.
That's great. I just wondered if people know that you might be willing to do that.
Other questions? Dan?
Thanks. You talked about staffing levels and you said there's been a partial replenishment of the staffing levels. I think you said it's currently at 40 FTEs.
Correct.
Can you remind us what it was pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic, it was 43.1 in 2019, and in 2009 it was 49.4.
Thank you.
Yep.
Greg?
Yeah, I just first wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I definitely learned a lot about some of the services that you offer, and I just think it's incredible that we have such a great community asset, and you guys are doing a great job. I loved hearing about the adult services, right? I know that there's a lot of children in our community that the library is a place for them to discover and learn and investigate interests and all that sort of stuff. But, utilizing it for the tax services and the telehealth, I mean, that's just incredible. And I hope, we can continue to see those type of programs grow, because that's just, that's so beneficial to the community on top of all the other wonderful work that you all do. So I just wanted to express my gratitude. So appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you, Greg. We really definitely try to meet community needs for sure.
Great, thank you. I was just wondering if you could say just maybe one or two more sentences about the literacy inside and out. I know you got a grant earlier this year to expand that, and just maybe how it's going, what, changes you've seen.
Sure. So we had help from you in 2020, which we thank you for. We also just got a ALA grant as well. In the past, we provided mostly programming, like Readers Theater. We included them in the community read. We did some poetry workshops, some book clubs. And now we are focusing on doing that. And we are also adding to the jail's book library. We are adding playaways, which are, they're kind of like little preloaded audiobooks. And then we are also adding tablets that are preloaded with ebooks. We're still kind of developing it as it goes, but we are super excited to bring it back into the jail. I think for a little while, we're going to be limited to online for a bit, but we do see it on the horizon going back in and doing book clubs and all that kind of fun stuff.
Great, thank you. I think it's a really wonderful program you guys are running. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing some of your day with us. I hope you get to get outside and enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you again for having us.
Yep. See you all soon.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Let's move along. And Veronica Pillar is here. I think this will be a brief discussion, but
Excuse me. I forgot. I was going to ask, what's happening with the director at the library?
I think I can answer that, is that they have sort of taken a break from over the winter because the search last year was a failed search. And at the last board meeting, I feel like they said they were kind of ramping up again to start a new search, but they haven't yet.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so we have this policy of if a legislator wants to attend a conference that is outside of the NISAC conferences, we ask them to come to GO and tell us a little bit about that conference. And if the committee will sort of look at it and say, yes, this is, relevant to your work as a legislator, we kind of give approval. So Veronica, you are interested in a conference. You want to tell us which one?
Yes, thank you, Amanda. I'm interested in going to the Facing Race conference, which is in November, a while from now. This came up, it's basically a big yearly, with the usual COVID caveats conference. I think they did do it virtually during COVID. Trying to bring folks together to work on advancing racial justice in mostly in organizational spheres, which can include government. So this came up as a discussion in the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And I think there'll be updates later. We're going to be trying to send some county staff members or a discussion later about who to the conference, likely virtually. Since we have other funding for legislators to go places and training, I don't want to take up the WDIC funding that could go to folks with less access to this for myself. But I do want to go because I think it would just be helpful, like background and updating my learning for bringing a better understanding of racial justice into the work that I do with the county. I'm hoping to go in person because I think you all have a sense of how much better that can be than a virtual conference in terms of the informal interactions. And to go, there's a main conference and it comes with a handful of pre-meetings, and one of them is the Government Alliance on Race and Equity pre-convention that's only in person, and that's for government officials specifically. So that feels even more targeted. So that's my request.
That's great. I mean, I'll let committee members chime in, but that definitely seems like one that folks have gone to in the past and that we would support. Travis?
It's definitely a great conference. I've been to 2 of them. It's in Phoenix this year. I'm trying to take several young people through my Brother's Keeper program out to it. It's definitely worth going to.
Great. Yeah, we have sent county staff in the past. I think the only real question is probably about figuring out the finances. And earlier this year, the legislature agreed that we wanted our newly elected colleagues to be able to go to NISAC, but also go to another conference of their choosing. So I would maybe look to Kathy to help us figure that out. But I get the sense that it would probably be a great experience for you and for us to hear back about it. Any other questions or comments? All right, so excellent. Have at it. Talk to Kathy and Katrina, and they can work on getting you registered when that time comes and working out the details.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Will do.
All right, great. All right, let's move on to our discussion and a couple of resolutions that have to do with continuing hybrid and virtual meetings. So there's some information in your packet. There is an updated copy of the local law, which I assume everyone has. And maybe I'll look to Bill and Lisa to start us off.
This provision of law has come forward with the governor in the last several weeks in order to take advantage of it, which allows for distance participation in certain public meetings. You have to pass a local law, and that's what we've proposed here. We've gone around a little bit as we put minds together, and I think the best way to proceed is as we've done here. I apologize for the synonym OPBC, but I couldn't think of anything else that would apply and be easily understood. So technically, we would be able to take advantage of this state law or state rule that's in effect, coming into effect, for a period of up to 2 years, it looks like, July of 2024. And there were commonsensical requirements we'd have to meet. We've adopted them almost word for word from statutory language. And I think this addresses concerns that were raised. We circulated a draft, and people came in and had concerns or questions. And right up until about meeting starting time, we were making some amendments. But I think everyone's now at peace with this, and I think it will work.
All right, let's go for some questions and comments. Mike?
I can certainly support this for a limited time through July of 2024 is fine. Could we have a sunset provision in the local law that says it would end unless extended at that point?
I suppose we could do that, or you could just wait and see if July 1 comes along and it's not extended, or if it is extended, we don't have to then prepare new paperwork, but you certainly could do that.
But does this local law, is it tied to that date?
It says in the decretal paragraph at the beginning to allow until July 1, 2024. So unless the governor or whoever's in control of the state government extends that, then this ceases to be effective as of that date. Certainly that's how I'm reading it. This is a limited extension of time for this. Alternatively, you could say that we do want,
If our own local law language said that it mimicked the July 1st date in some way.
if you want to, we can put in that this will not be
That's my
extended.
suggestion.
You mean other than this, where it does say until July until July
It says the
1st?
governor signed an amendment to
Oh,
allow until July 21st, July 1st. Then it goes on with the amendment
Right.
changes, but I would just kind of like at the end that this is only valid until July 1st, 2024, unless extended.
We could easily add that language if you'd like that.
so is that an amendment? You want
Please.
to, we would just add a sentence. Where would we add that sentence?
In
Bill?
section 2, where it reads, this local law shall take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the Secretary of State.
Okay,
And I would simply say, however, this local law will cease being effective as of July 1, 2024. Period.
okay, so thus far, we haven't put a resolution on the table. So let's have some more discussion, and then when we have two resolutions, one that would authorize a public hearing and one that would adopt the law at the point of the public hearing. So then we can make an amendment at that point. But let's see what other people have to say for the moment. Greg?
Yeah, Bill's language seemed definitive, right? Would cease being effective July 1, 2024. I would like to see it tied with the state or the governor's, if it's extended past that, ours would also be extended. So we don't have to go through this process again. I think it should mirror the direction of the state.
Okay, so let's add that. Let's make sure that's the way that we want it when we get to the amendment part. Ann Corman?
Thanks. I know you're saying we'll talk about the amendment maybe later. Maybe that's what you're saying, but I was also hoping that this could be as long as possible, because when you get into here, as far as only for extraordinary circumstances such as disability, illness, et cetera, this is not something that people are going to regularly, they can't regularly take advantage of this clause or this law for just, geez, I'm tired today, or I don't want to drive downtown, or whatever. So, I mean, there's just very certain, specific circumstances. And so a couple other quick comments. And so it says unexpected factor in that same sentence under extraordinary circumstances, unexpected factor or events which preclude the member's physical attendance at such meeting. So maybe this is a question for Bill. Would this include, there's a snowstorm and somebody can't actually get to the meeting, that type of thing? Or is it a car breaking down? Do you have any opinion on that?
Oh, I could have an opinion. I don't know how well thought it was. We don't know, to be perfectly frank. This is the language that we've taken directly from the state proposed legislation. And we'd have to just play it by ear as time goes on. I wish I could give you a definitive answer, but that's really how I see it. It is a more restrictive use of this video conferencing than we had during COVID. So I think it certainly seems to me that the state seems to be working towards, we'll do this for another couple of years and think about it, maybe not extend it, but I cannot read minds.
Right. So we don't know right now, for instance, snowstorm we think might be covered. I mean, so we don't know, or we're going to look at this later of what are unexpected factors.
It depends on what the state may come out with, whether
They might come out with more guidance.
they could. Right now, this is all they've given us.
Okay. I saw a little bit more online, but it didn't really detail anything more. And so, so there's specific issues as far as the EMC, the Environmental Management Council, and we have Kate Darfler, the vice chair of that, because they're a state mandated. Anyway, so it would be possible for her to just ask a question on her specific issues with their committee or their board?
Sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the way that we have, just to, jump in, I think the way that we have this worded is that we've added in this updated version includes the legislature and other public bodies of the county that are subject to open meetings law. So any committee, any council, any organization or advisory board that is also subject to open meetings law would be subject to this. So I think the EMC falls under that, but maybe we don't know. Do you know, Bill?
Off the top of my head, no, but
Okay.
I think the state seems to be limiting this more than they did earlier. How much more they limit, we're just going to have to see over time, unfortunately. They don't give you advisory opinions, unfortunately.
So Kate, did you have a specific question about whether it applies to the EMC, or what was your question?
I guess I was, wanting one for the EMC specifically. Thank you for letting me join the meeting. Yes, one specifically on does it apply to the EMC? Should the EMC be planning for moving forward? And then some clarifying questions based on this new law. I had a similar question as Anne about something like transportation piece of it. Would that fall under the extraordinary circumstances, either a burden for transportation or at a specific time, or something like a snowstorm or car breaking down? I was also curious about the video conferencing needing to be recorded, and the recording and then hosting of those recordings through the county. Is there going to be support for the boards to, have a Zoom that's recorded and then moved to a location, and it's going to be hosted there for the boards? So I wanted to make sure we were covering that well, because that wasn't clear for me. And my last question has to do with how previous to COVID times, there was an option in open meetings law for you to attend. You don't have to all attend from the same co-located public place. So someone could, you could attend from another public location that was separate from where everyone else was if it was noticed and open to the public. And I believe my understanding of that was correct. And in this law, it's not clear that that still is allowed, and I assume it is, but there used to be, so say I wanted to join the EMC from the Trumansburg Village Hall, if it was noticed appropriately in our agendas, that would be a location that I could then attend the meeting. So I just wanted some clarification on those pieces.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we have clarification on all of that, because as Bill said, this is what the state has given us.
And
So,
what's the point? It's only going to apply to organizations that are subject to the open meetings law, and not many of our organizations in this county actually are covered by them. So they have, I won't say free reign, but they have a much broader opportunity than open meetings law regulated organizations do.
I think this will have to be something that, we kind of talked about this a year ago when we were looking at this several times, and which of our advisory boards is subject to open meetings. And I think this is going to be something that we have to sort of look through on a case-by-case basis and see which ones do fall under that. And there's a lot of questions still. So I think stay tuned.
All right, we're ready. We do have backup options for June when this would theoretically go into effect, but it's useful for people like me who would fall under that extraordinary circumstances for childcare issues to know what's going on with it. So
I think that, in that paragraph there, disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities. So I think that in my mind, that would qualify.
Right.
I think the other part for folks to notice is that if you have a quorum in person, then other members can attend virtually. So if the majority of your people are there and one or two people can't make it, but they can make it from home because of these circumstances, they would still have enough members to meet. So it's good to keep that in mind. Annie, did you have other questions?
Just one, and thank you for your patience. Under the last page or the second page of the proposed law, list of other public bodies. So I'm just wondering the rationale to have.
Annie, just hang on a second, because we had an even more updated version than that. And we took that list off. Go ahead.
We did take it off because it was over-inclusive, if you will. And when we sat down and looked at it, I'll give you an idea. About 3 of these organizations look like they actually are covered by the open meetings law without question. There are a whole slew that are not. And there are some that you need a Jesuit to figure out what it is. So we just went, since we had so few that was so clear, we just went with the language of, again, my apologies, OPBC, subject to the open meetings law.
Oh, okay, great. That was my question. I thought it was overly inclusive. Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Helping people with the process, and it became more confusing, so we got rid of that list.
Greg.
Yes, thanks. Just one more question. And Bill, I think this one's directed more at you. We likely may not get additional guidance from the state on this. And it may be intentionally left sort of broad and vague. Who's left up to make these determinations, right? Because I think there's a lot of scenarios that people are going to want to try to solve for or make sure that there's information in. But at the end of the day, where is the interpretation of the local law left? Who's that left to? And are we sort of, free to interpret it in a certain way until challenged, right? Would be the.
Well, I think the decisions will be made by each organization trying to decide what to do. They'll seek counsel from their attorney. We can reach out, hopefully fairly quickly. A body of experience will develop with a state agency where we can find out something from them. But we don't have any answers to these questions. I wish I did. But it would be anything else. If in good faith you take a position and it's done publicly, I can't imagine anybody complaining too loudly about it.
Mike.
There was a question about whether we would be providing the technical staff for these meetings for advisory boards and things. I don't think we can do that. I think we should answer that and let folks know that we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not sure if it falls under that topic, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the 7th bullet point down, I think we were talking about changing on the second line, recordings posted or linked on the public website of the legislature or the other public body of the county instead of and. The legislature clerks cannot do that for all of the advisory boards we have. So that would clarify that. So I think we're wanting to change that and to an or.
Which and or?
What did I say? 7th one down.
Yes.
Each meeting conducted using video conferencing shall be recorded and such recordings posted or linked on the public website of the legislature or the other public bodies of the county within 5 business days. So.
If I may, we're going to just be continuing what we do now.
Yeah.
So not every public meeting is being recorded and maintained for the use of historians. It's whatever organizations to this point have been recording. For example, the Board of Health, we're going to continue to do that. But we're not adding to this list of organizations that have to have recordings.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and get a resolution on the floor, and then if we want to talk further, we can. Dan.
I would like to move the resolution with the and change to or in the bullet point that you mentioned, and with some language at the very end that says, and the Tompkins County Legislature shall consider renewal of this law in July 2024.
Okay. I think that would be the second resolution, adoption of local law number blank of 2022. Does that? I'm looking at Brittany. Can we do that one first before we do the public hearing one?
Well, make that the legislature may rather than shall.
Hang on one second. Let's just, we're clarifying which one we're moving.
Yeah, which one are we moving?
Doc 10913. Can we do that one before we do the hearing?
Kathy. Sure, at the committee level, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, my bad. What packet page are we on then?
Oh, 18.
The resolution's on packet page 17 to adopt the law.
So we're doing the,
No, wait, 17 is the public hearing. 18 is the law.
which one are we doing?
I think we're doing the adoption of local law, page 18.
ID 10913.
Okay, so then that is the one where those amendments would apply?
Yes.
And Mike, your request was?
Your added language at the end to say that the legislature may extend this.
I think you said shall
Consider.
reconsider.
The Tompkins County Legislature shall consider renewal of this law in July 2024.
You saying may, well, what would, I mean,
It means it's going to have to come up and be, but if the state hasn't done something, there's no sense in us having to discuss it if it's gone away.
but if we say may, doesn't that give us the option of not ever discussing it and just, would it continue automatically?
No,
No. Okay, then may it is.
And
if I may, for the chair, this proposed legislation ends July 1, 2024, unless the state does something different.
Right, I think what this, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, what this is saying is if the state goes ahead and renews it, we are still going to reconsider it locally.
Is what I understand you're saying.
Does that all work?
I would still go with shall though, because
I thought so too.
if the state goes ahead and renews it, we don't have to look at it again. If the state doesn't renew it, then we don't have to look at it. I think we should put that on our radar that we are going to discuss this at that point. I mean, people are going to want to discuss it anyway. So
I kind of thought that too, that we shall consider it again in 2 years.
So let's just hang on one second. So I just want to clarify that we are moving the copy that is the revised copy, not the one in your packet. It includes in bold letters and other public bodies of the county, OPBC, in numerous places throughout the document. So that's the one we're moving. Everyone on the same page? Okay. Dan has suggested one amendment on the first page to change that and to an or. Wait, we didn't even get a second yet. Dan moved it. Would somebody like to second this?
We're trying to
Travis.
clarify what we're moving.
Travis seconds it. So let's take the two amendments. So we have this revised version on the floor. Dan, you're making an amendment to change and to or.
Yeah, I feel confident on that one. I'll do that one.
Is that friendly to Travis? Yes. Any objections to that? Okay, so we're good with that. There's another amendment. Can we have that sentence again to add to the end?
The Tompkins County Legislature shall consider renewal of this law in July 2024. That's to be added to section 2 of the law.
Mike?
I'd like to add Bill's language that we talked about it sunsetting before that. Can be added after that, but if Bill proposed some language at my request, and I'd like to see that in there.
Instead of what I proposed.
No, you can have that at the end of that.
Could we hear that
Okay.
language again?
Have both.
Hang on. Dan is making this amendment, so we need to decide on that. So the amendment is that Tompkins County shall reconsider this again in July of 2024. Is that friendly to the seconder? Travis?
That'll work.
No, that was the previous one. Is that objectionable to anyone? Okay, so we've added that sentence in. Now, what is the sentence you want, Mike?
Greg Mezey's waving his
Oh, I'm
hands.
sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
Sorry, I don't, if we're kind of still on that amendment, I'm not supportive of a hard sunset. I actually think in the first paragraph, and Bill can chime in, but I think we should say this open meeting law is law to allow until July 1st, 2024, or until it's no longer allowed by New York State open meeting law.
If it's no longer allowed by New York State, then we can't do it. We don't need to review it.
I know, I guess I'm trying to tie it to New York State's amended open meeting law, as opposed to, because if New York State amends it, but Mike's language goes in, Mike is suggesting sunsetting this on July 1st, 2024, even if it is extended.
Right.
And I'm saying that this should follow along with the amended open meeting law if it is decided to be amended in the future, so that this can continue, so we don't have to come back and have this conversation. That would be my preference.
Okay, Bill, let's let Bill, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say that change the language in this way: the Tompkins County Legislature shall consider it again in 2 years in the event the state extends to July 1, 2024 deadline. That's just common sense, but
That's
it makes
fine,
it
yeah.
clear what everyone understands.
Okay. Mike?
I could accept that.
Okay. Did you get that, Kathy?
No, not all of it, no.
Say it again, Bill.
Oh dear, here we go. Okay. The Tompkins County Legislature shall consider it again in 2 years, assuming the state extends the July 1, 2024 deadline. Pretty close to what I said before.
Okay. Questions or comments
Hang on,
about that, Kathy?
Would it be more appropriate to make a new section 2 for that? And then section 3 would be the filing with the Secretary of State?
That makes
Separate
sense.
it out.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, can do that. Okay, so I think, I don't know where we are if in bringing that and seconding it and,
Where we are, Greg had proposed something different than that amendment.
Oh, right.
And I think maybe Mike wanted to speak with it. If not, to it. Otherwise, I would.
I'm happy with what Bill just said
Greg's comment, though?
about having, about
It should,
we really need to be looking at this. It's not a good idea to have virtual representation by elected officials. We should avoid that. There are circumstances, and I think this makes sense for 2 years to be able to do that. But having people all together, I think is a goal that we should be holding out there as an attempt to get to there.
okay. Greg, did you have other comments about the language that Bill proposed?
No, I'm fine with what Bill proposed. In 2 years, I'm going to support the extension if it is extended. I 100% agree that there's an element of in-person that is better. But I also agree that there's an element of accessibility and participation that happens through virtual interaction. I think it's the way that times are changing, and our government and organizations are evolving, and we should be evolving with them. So I'll support it in 2 years, but I don't necessarily need to take more time in this meeting for that. Yeah, we'll if it is extended, we'll have the conversation again in 2 years. Happy to have it then. But my strong sense is that this should continue as long as New York State allows it.
Great, thank you. Other comments about this as a whole or this amendment that we're adding to the end? I just want to reiterate that this does only provide for people to attend virtually in extenuating circumstances. This isn't like, oh, I'm going to be on vacation in California this week, so I'll just chime in then. This is if you have COVID and you feel well enough to attend, but you don't want to come in person, or you have small children at home, or you're taking care of your ailing mother or whatnot. If this isn't, as Bill said earlier, this isn't exactly how we've been doing it thus far. This is a sort of adjustment. So I hope that, I mean, we'll talk about this again with the full legislature, but I think it's good to notice that there are differences. Okay, are we ready to vote on, technically this is the adoption of local law blank of 2022, allowing the county to continue holding virtual public meetings. Kathy.
I just want to clarify, we just have the two friendly amendments, what Bill offered, and then changing the and to or.
Yes, I believe so. Everyone's nodding. Great. All right, let's vote. Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Great, thank you. And then along with that, can I have somebody please move resolution doc ID 10914, authorizing a public hearing on local law number blank of 2022, allowing the county to continue to hold virtual public meetings. So
I'll
this,
move it.
Mike moves it, seconded by Greg. So this would set a public hearing for folks to come and talk to the legislature if they want to on June 7th at 5:30 about what we were just talking about. Questions or comments on that? Talked enough about it? Okay. Let's vote. Travis,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
And I'm yes. Excellent. Great. Bill, is there anything else you want to say to us about this before? Thank you very much for working on this and walking us through it all. It's definitely a interesting and challenging one. All right, let's move along. We have Darby Kiley here from the Department of Planning and Sustainability, and she is going to tell us about the 2022 foreclosure report and recommendations. And there was an updated email that she sent. So, hi, Darby.
Great. Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having me. And if you did not see that email with the updates, there's only a couple minor changes, but we get to this point in the year and the number of properties on the foreclosure list change day to day. So I wanted to give you the most up-to-date information that has changed since last week when I submitted the memo and information. And so for those of you who are new to this committee, just to bring you up to speed, that the county has this land transaction policy, and that's in the administrative policy section 9-07. And when a parcel or any properties are up for being sold, which happens during the foreclosure process, our department reviews those properties for their natural, cultural, historic risk issues, and then make recommendations based on that. So what is going on at this time is that there are properties that are subject to tax foreclosure. So they haven't paid their taxes, whether it's 3 years for vacant or commercial, or, no, sorry, 3 years for residential land or residential properties, or 2 years for commercial and vacant. So they get on the tax foreclosure list. That list goes out to the municipalities from the finance department in October of the previous year. So it went out in October 2021. And then those properties are also listed in the newspaper 3 times that finance takes care of. And then about in February, we start going through the list and reviewing what's on there. And then just recently, early last week, the staff and the auctioneer go and visit every property on the list and give notice, put a post on the property, or deliver a letter that says, what the process is and the tax foreclosure going forward. So the property owners have until about the middle of this month, we can clarify the exact date, to pay their back taxes. And then there's an auction then scheduled for June of this year. So what I'm here to talk about is properties that we've looked at and evaluated for some kind of significance. And I'll go through each of these. So we'll be looking for, at the top of the memo, it talks about the approval to withhold one of the properties, to sell one with conditions, and then to continue withholding 3 of the parcels from the auction. And so the first one and then like what was updated in the memo is that since last week, 3 more parcels were paid off. 2 of them were vacant lands, and then 1 was a residential property. And, we expect some more to be paid off in the next couple weeks before the deadline. Any questions about the process before I move into the specifics?
No, doesn't look like it.
Okay, great, thanks. So the first one that we're recommending to withhold from the auction is on Station Road in the town of Danby. And this is adjacent to existing property that the Finger Lakes Land Trust owns. So I reached out to the executive director, Andy Zepp, and shared this information with him. And he said that would be a great asset to the property that we already own there. It protects a wetland. They're aware that there is a tire dump that needs to be cleaned up, and then just would give them some access to their other lands that they own because it's a different access to Station Road that they don't have currently. And so the map shows where that is. And in the amendment, I did add the road that runs east-west is Station Road. And then kind of along the western boundary is the railroad tracks. So then that's one that we're asking for approval to withhold. The next parcel that's listed is 53 Caroline Depot Road in the town of Caroline. And the issue there is that the property owner, to access the house, the property owner drives across private land that they have an easement on, and then they cross over the old abandoned railroad bed. And then that is currently owned by NYSEG, what will become they're working on a South Hill Recway extension. And so that in order to access the property, they need to have an easement to cross over. And so we just would like to have a condition placed at the time of sale that the future owner would need to get an easement with NYSEG in order to do that. So that's the second one. And then the 3 remaining, 1 in Freeville and 2 in Newfield, we've been actively pursuing, working with those municipalities from properties that were withheld in previous years. The one in the village of Freeville has land on both sides with Fall Creek in the middle, and it's adjacent to land that the Freeville has acquired in through past auction processes. So I just got a letter from the village yesterday that formally indicating that they are interested in pursuing the purchase of that land. So I'll be working with them and bringing that probably back to you guys for future approval to move forward with that acquisition. And then the remaining 2 are in the town of Newfield, and this has been a lingering issue that we're trying to keep working with the town of Newfield. They have an operation and maintenance agreement with the developer, but the to take care of these 2 stormwater parcels, and just trying to get them to work with the landowners on what should be happening with those, but they have not been paying the taxes on those 2 small, there's a 1 acre and a 2.6 acre parcels that the developer has not been paying the taxes on. So and then it includes a budget implications for covering the taxes for the coming year.
We've been looking at those stormwater ones for a while.
I'm trying.
Thank you for keeping us updated. Questions or comments for Darby? Dan?
Yeah, thanks. Darby, when I first read through this and I read the Caroline one, I thought I understood it. And then I read it again. I just wasn't 100% sure. I think I do. So maybe I can try to explain what I think it is and you tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Sure.
So the driveway crosses the railroad bed, which is now owned by NYSEG. And there is no easement currently. So they've just been driving across it. Go ahead. Sounds like I'm wrong already.
No, that's correct.
Yeah. And so all we're saying is that when this is sold, now it will require the new property owner to formalize an easement with NYSEG. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the ownership of this, I dug through some deeds and looked back even as far back as the 30s and couldn't find a reference to, what was the railroad bed, railroad agreements. And there was some language, but, I didn't get into the deep depths, and it wouldn't be with NYSEG. So NYSEG took over the ownership of this whole line, so that was not put in place.
Thank you.
Other questions about any of this? So we don't have a resolution, but you're looking for approval. No.
Yeah, yes, looking for approval. And I just looked back at the past last year's, and it was just, a motion to approve basically those, the 3 approval statements that we make at the top of that memo. And then we can put in the references to each of the tax parcels.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve what Darby is suggesting for these particular parcels? Mike Lane, seconded by Dan. Everyone clear on what we're moving and voting on? Dan?
Yes, but I have another question. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Unless I missed it, is there a schedule, timeline of how this proceeds?
I'll let Rick answer that one.
Thank you, Darby. Yes, the next thing will be, it'll be coming to the legislature, a report that shows all properties that are going to auction on the second Monday in June 13th. And we allow people to pay on these properties. Property owners can pay up until May 15th. And about the only thing that is really promising at this point is that we've had quite a few redemptions since the property tour. When we went out and posted the properties, Darby was so gracious as to go out and do that with us this year. It makes our job so much easier. Her report today to you is more extensive, and you have a chance to ask questions at this level a little bit better than the legislature does when I bring that report, because you actually take action on this item for us to go ahead with these recommendations. The legislature doesn't take any action. All that you'll be seeing when I bring my report is the list of properties that are going to auction. So that's kind of the timeline. We're on the home stretch right now.
The auction is June 13th.
Correct.
And in the past couple of years, we've had to postpone the auction, right?
Correct. We postponed like 4 times. We postponed the auction in 20. And Jim that just gave up, because they kept having moratoriums from the governor's executive orders. So last year, late in the year, I think it was in October, we were able to conduct an auction that included 2 years worth of properties, 2 years of foreclosure and auction properties, all wrapped up into one. but it was still a very small number of properties, about the same number that we're looking at right now. So even over COVID, thought that there would be more hardships and more people not paying their taxes. We actually found just the opposite. The least number of properties being auctioned last year and this year is a very low number for this point in time. And I still anticipate a number of redemptions between now and the auction date.
Okay, great. Dan.
I'm sorry. I just.
Oh, well, go ahead. Greg had his hand up, but go ahead.
Good. I've been talking.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for that schedule. That helps me actually say what I want to say next, which is because we're not going to have a lot of time by the next legislature meeting. One of the deadlines will have already passed. So I'm going to say this now. Maybe I'll send it out as an email to the legislators as well. Every year when this happens, I try to notify my town boards about the properties within their jurisdictions that this is subject to, in case anyone knows anybody and wants to reach out in their own ways. I have sometimes reached out to neighbors that I happen to know in that area, or various things. And last year I didn't do that because of COVID. It kept getting delayed, but really it was my fault. I just didn't follow through. And of all the years to not do that, it turned out that there was one property that became very controversial, and the neighbors are it's still playing out. They didn't know about it, that this land was going to be up for auction. At least some of them didn't, and they didn't like what happened with the results. And so I'm just telling this story to my colleagues to recommend that you take this information from the current list of foreclosed properties and let your own municipalities know about them. Let anyone else who can know about them, so that nobody's surprised, I guess, is my moral. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Greg.
Yeah, Darby, thanks for the presentation. Super informative. It's kind of great to see the whole process play out. So appreciate that for the first time. I just am curious about the process with the Finger Lakes Land Trust for the property that's being withheld. What typically is the process that would take place or play out if it was withheld? I know it says to explore, conservation options and things like that. Could you just give a little bit more detail on how that process works so that we can be clear, that it's just not going just to them, or what the process looks like?
Yeah, and this is still kind of new for me, and I'm working it out with the Village of Freeville right now. But we do, the way we look at it is we ask for a formal, a letter from them indicating their interest in the property, and we wait until after the auction. So the landowner is given the full amount of time to pay it off. So that could still happen, and I think that definitely has happened in the past too. And then we work on negotiating a price for the sale to the land trust, and Bill will get involved and work up the title and the quick claim deed and all that information. So that all happens after the auction, and part of why the Freeville one is still on there. We just ran out of time between October's auction of last year and getting the things lined up for getting it turned over to them. There's probably a more specific process, but that's what we've been working on. And I reach out to Rick and finance about costs and taxes owed, and then Bill and the attorney's office to figure out the legalese of it. But we help move it forward with the various entities.
Great. Thank you, Darby. And we should go ahead and vote on this. Rick.
Follow up to Dan's suggestion. I want him and all of you to know that when we send out the foreclosure proceedings, we contact every town and village. We contact every town and village. We give them 2 copies of the foreclosure proceedings with every property in their area, and one of them goes to the clerk of that town or village, and one goes to the supervisor. And we also advertise according to law in 2 newspapers 3 times each. So we go, I feel, over and above, and helping to get the municipalities involved. If they've got comments, concerns, they often let us know, hey, this property over here, we would like to get maybe, or, let's work with this individual. I know of a particular hardship. Sometimes they come forward to my office and work on particular properties to help get them either paid or get them turned over to Darby for special exception reasons for a particular municipal use, land trust deal, something like that. So we've gotten better about that over the years, but I just wanted to make that clear to all of you.
Great. Thanks, Rick.
I agree. I would certainly admire the process the county does. I just want to make that clear.
All right, we need to move along. So let's vote on this. Greg,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And I'm yes. So thank you, Darby. Thank you, Rick. We'll hear more in the future. I'd like to we have a couple of resolutions. I'd like to move those up and move the discussion of the property tax exemption down, since we don't have any action on that. So sorry to those who are waiting for that, but we kind of need to do our action items first. So let's go to county attorney. And we have a resolution, appropriation from contingent fund, county attorney's office. Can I have somebody move that, please? Greg moves, seconded by Dan. Bill, anything to inform us about this?
No, it's just for a period of time. You were blessed to have two county attorneys
We
for about
were.
a month.
We were.
To
Those were good
learn
days.
the ropes. So it was worth it.
It was worth it. Questions on this one? All right, let's vote. Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm yes. All right, let's go ahead and go to administration. We have resolution to update the administrative policy 05-02, the fiscal policy. Can I have somebody move that, please? Mike, seconded by Dan. Thank you. Lisa.
Sure. Thank you, Amanda. So this policy is coming to you after having been considered since February, or discussed and considered since February at the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee meeting, and also discussed probably since January or February with department heads at department head meetings. So it's had quite a review. I'll also say that what you're seeing is a focus on one portion of the policy for review. The full policy needs more of a review and overhaul, but for expediency's sake, for inclusion and direction for the 2023 budget process, we focused only on one section of the policy having to do with the practice of rollover. And that was in order to give departments and the organization direction on how we are going to approach rollover for 2023. So this policy change removes the rollover policy. Some of the background for that we've discussed again at Budget, Capital, and Personnel, and with departments. It's really generating from to be in compliance with the Office of State Controller, and the practice of rollover has been outside of generally accepted accounting practices. It's what it does. The proposed change is a change in procedure for departments, as the money will not be designated for specifically for departments, but in the general fund. So departments would still be equipped to request those funds through over targets. And also, just as background, what we have done organizationally to help with the transition from this practice is, and in response to what we found from department heads, is to centralize some of the purchases that have been used in the past through the rollover practice, namely purchase of computers and vehicles, to centralize that through the capital budgeting process to make sure that we are on more of a replacement schedule, a regular replacement schedule for computers and vehicles. And we can maximize bulk purchasing, we can maximize rebates, and we can bring departments more up to date regularly with these purchases so that they are not having to wait until the odd year that they may have rollover to purchase them. So those are a couple of the changes that we've made this year to, I think, help us govern better and purchase more wisely and help with this transition. But happy to take any questions at this point, and also to say we hope to bring this back again with a more fulsome review of the policy as a whole,
including the rollover part, because that's been taken out of this part, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, questions, comments, edits from anyone?
Amanda?
Yeah.
I'm not a member of the committee, but I just want to express my appreciation to Lisa for listening to my concerns and perspective as a longtime department head who had used rollover numerous times. And I think you've done a great job coming up with a way to take care of, especially the smaller departments that need some help from time to time. And that's been a mechanism they've done it. So.
Mike?
Second, what Lee just said, and we had a thorough discussion of this at budget, and it's nice to see this change and getting where we should be with accounting.
Great. I just had two little formatting things. On packet page 46, down the letters, letter G says tentative budget, but there's nothing there. There's no definition or anything. I wasn't sure if I was just reading that wrong or there should be. See what I mean?
Packet page 46.
All the other letters have a definition or something, and then it just says tentative budget.
I'm not seeing it on my copy, unfortunately, but something dangling that. 46G. Tentative. What is my?
It's section 3.03, county administrator review and recommendations. And then there's letters
Oh, okay.
A through G, but they all have
Thank
text.
you. My online copy, that's packet page 45. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I don't, it just seems like a dangling.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
I agree.
either didn't get filled in or it should be
Yep.
cut.
I agree.
All right, well, you'll look into that.
Yes. That's again, subject to the other pieces that we haven't done the more thorough.
Okay.
But yes, I agree with you that should be addressed.
Okay, and then the other little thing, which is on my packet page 48, under B, discretionary expenses, a lot of stuff has been cut out, but the numbers 1, 2, and 3 don't, there shouldn't be a number 1.
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep, we can address the formatting issues in the.
Sorry, I noticed those little things.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Okay, that's all. I don't see any other questions. Let's go ahead and vote on this. Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
and I'm yes. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you. All right, let's go up back to the Department of Assessment. And Jay Franklin is here and has prepared some information for us. And I know Lee Shirtliff is here because he had some information he shared with me a couple days ago. Thank you, Lee.
Amanda, may I ask Jay a different question, a real quickie?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Jay, do we have the dates yet for the assessment review boards, local boards? I haven't seen it for Dryden.
Yes, we do. We sent that over back in April, and I think Irene, since I got questions from two other legislators yesterday and today, we sent it out again today, I believe, to all legislators.
Yeah, I just saw it again.
Thank you.
So that's next Friday, the 12th, I believe, is Dryden, if memory serves me correctly.
May 13th.
It was close.
Friday is the 13th.
Friday the 13th, sorry. Lansing's the 12th.
Yeah, so legislators, check your emails. You can also coordinate with, if you have other legislators in your towns or villages. You don't, like for the town of Ithaca, there's 5 legislators that represent various portions, but we're not all going to be there for the whole time. We're going to share that burden. Okay, let's talk about the potential real property tax exemption for volunteer firefighter ambulance workers. Jay, why don't you start us off?
So as you all know by now, we can only do what New York State allows us to do. So currently we do offer a volunteer firefighters, ambulance, EMT workers exemption, but we haven't administered that in probably 15, 20 years. It was only for the village of Groton, and the volunteer could receive a $500 reduction in their assessed value, which is about a $15 savings, or they could receive an income tax credit. And I don't know exactly what that is, but I know it was a couple $100. So it wasn't useful for the volunteer to claim those property taxes since they could receive more money on their income tax. So we haven't administered that in a while. But New York State, in their infinite wisdom, have created 11 very similar statutes to the Real Property Tax Law, Section 466, but they did it so that only specific counties can opt into it. So I think I counted, there's 30 counties that have petitioned New York State in order to be a part of one of these 11 different statutes right now. So I didn't dive deep into each one of these because I think they are all very similar, but I wanted to get some answers to some questions on what you were thinking. First, to see if there was a statute that would meet our goals. And then if that didn't happen, then to see how we could tweak one, work with our state representatives in order to get it passed by the state. And then we would ultimately be able to adopt that statute and provide an incentive that you want to do so. Even if we saw that we wanted 466-J to be our statute, we would still have to petition New York State in order to allow that to happen in Tompkins County. It seems like we're not getting any more statewide exemptions because I don't think any legislators want to provide an exemption across the state. It's too controversial, but they will entertain town or county specific exemptions that are there. So typically what these statutes do, they provide somewhere between a 10% exemption. Some have a cap within there, some do not. So if your house is worth $500,000 and you're a volunteer fighter, you could receive a $50,000 reduction in your taxable value. If your house was only 250, you would only get a 25,000. So I think looking at a cap may be something that we would want to do. Other local options that I've seen in these, on if a firefighter died in the line of duty, could their unmarried spouse also receive that exemption? Or if they just passed away, could their unmarried spouse also receive that exemption? But there's a lot of different options out there. You know, some do cap it at $3,000 as opposed to that $10,000. Some also do allow school districts to opt into this as well. Any questions now before I get into my questions to you?
I'm sure we have questions. Anybody? Comments? Mike,
So is this the one that Monroe
can you
County?
use your mic?
I'm
Mike?
sorry. You're right. I'm sorry, Jay, is this the, what Monroe County is doing?
Yes, this Monroe County is the latest one to adopt a section for them, and they are at 10% with no cap on their exemption that was just signed into law.
Okay, so this is the process that they went through then.
Correct. They determine what they want to incentivize, tweak what they saw, and they needed a new section of law, so they got 466M or K. One of those letters.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
There questions? I guess not. Go ahead, Jay.
All right, so one, and on my packet page 34, I kind of had questions here to get how you're thinking about this in order for me to do a little more research on what we need to do next. But you know, what does the legislature want to provide a benefit to? You know, is the real property tax the best way to do that? How to accomplish who is eligible? You know, how long of service do we have to have in order to receive this benefit? How is an active member defined? Should we place a cap on that? And then should we allow the unmarried spouse to receive it after 20 years of service? Or if a firefighter died in the line of duty, would we then provide that exemption moving on? So I'm looking to you to kind of provide some guidelines to this, and then I'll do my research and come back to you and let you know what we need to do next. You know, typically we would have to pass a resolution urging New York State to allow us to do this. Our state representatives, you know, we just did this for the conservation easement. It's written and in the local government affairs committee right now. So we would talk to Assemblywoman Kellis's office, one of our senators' offices, probably Senator Oberacker, and get those legislative aides to write up this law, work together, and then finally get it on the floor, passed, and then we can adopt it. So if I have any comments on my questions.
Yeah. Lee, you want to jump in?
How much do you want? I just maybe in reverse order, unmarried spouse, just for background. In all the years I've been involved, and I don't want you to know how old I am, but it was pushing 40. I know of one line of duty death in Tompkins County, and it was an older gentleman, had a heart attack and passed away. And, you know, if he'd have carried it over for a spouse, it would have only been a couple of years, because that's what the limit is. And so the line of duty deaths among volunteer firefighters in the community this size are a once in 30 or 40 year event, barring an accident or what have you. I was involved with the one with the Groton exemption and suggested that the village board pull that And and Jay's right, it's $250. And the one thing that this most recent Monroe County bill that went through, which by the way, is probably the best one that I've seen, has a stipulation that at the end of it that no volunteer who by reason of their status receiving any benefit under this provisions of this article shall suffer any diminution of such benefit because of the provisions of this. So that preserves their ability to get the income tax credit. So I would recommend you, if you were to pursue this, to use very similar language. I don't know about the caps. Certainly something to consider. As far as accomplishing who is eligible, if again, going back to the Monroe County legislation, the fire department and the authority having jurisdiction would provide a list of enrolled members who are eligible for the exemption on a yearly basis to the assessment department in this case. And from that, the members could apply to get an exemption. And I don't know how we at a local level could go into the weeds of us determining who an active member is. And I think it's almost a good faith trust with the local department that they're going to give you their active list. And there are so many stipulations out there with cancer coverage now, disability benefits through the volunteer firefighters benefits law, and length of service award programs that may exist out there, that the departments and their authorities are pretty self-regulating about maintaining active member roles and ensuring that they're meeting some level of requirement. Yeah, you may carry some of your long-term members who are less active, but because of the costs that are related to the benefits today, you don't have bloated rolls out there. So I think you'd almost have to, especially if you're partnering with your towns and villages on this, they're probably going to want their local departments they contract with to strengthen their definition of active. Who does the county wish to incentivize? Obviously, this is meant for those who live in their communities and own property, and you're trying to give them an incentive by volunteering in their departments. Do you want me to talk a little bit, Amanda, about what I researched?
Yes, in a minute. Let me see if other folks want to jump in. And, it's a little nebulous for me. I'm not exactly sure how we answer all these questions when there's so many people with so many opinions. But Mike, you want to say something?
It seems to me we ought to take the temperature of our group here to see whether we want to proceed with something like this first, even before we start answering the questions. And if we do, then I think we're going to have to ask our attorney to start putting together a draft, and he's going to want to, along with our director of assessment, and they're going to want to know what the answers to these questions are. But we got to have a proposal to look at.
Right. Yeah. Other thoughts? I guess that's the question, is if the committee and legislators who are here feel like this is something we want to hear more about. We've got sort of a basic rundown. I'm not sure we can answer all these questions today, but what do folks feel like? Dan?
A couple of things I'd like to say. I agree with Mike, actually. That would be a really good starting point, is just take the temperature of the committee. There was a discussion, I don't even remember which meeting was at, about this issue. And there were a bunch of things that got said there that were disturbing to me, and I didn't speak up at the time. About equity and whether, this covers enough people, and some people aren't in a position to volunteer for the fire department. So why should other people be getting this benefit and they're not? And I felt that conversation was way off base. We have a real crisis here, which is the rural communities are losing service, ambulance service and fire service. It's a fact, it's widespread. And, I feel like we need to address it. So I am in favor of this approach. It doesn't resolve everything. I don't know if it's completely equitable. There's a lot of things maybe it doesn't do, but it does something. And I really think we should pursue it. I don't know if I will, support it 100% till the end. There's a lot of questions to be answered, including the fiscal impact. When you give someone an exemption, means everyone else is paying a little more. So eventually I'm going to want to know, what that dollar figure is. But in general, I did totally support this approach. I think we should explore it further. My only question back to Jay for now is, what do you mean by that first question? What does the county legislature wish to incentivize? I mean, what did you mean by that question?
Well, it was more, are we looking for volunteer firefighters? Are we looking for EMT? How do you define that? Since this is a property tax, it would only benefit those that own property. So it's really, that was more open-ended. Are we just trying to target EMT, or is it a firefighter as well?
Good question. Let me just ask you a little about what the other thing you said, and it's kind of in here as well. You talked about other methods of incentivizing. Do you have something else in mind, or?
I mean, the only other method would be an income tax credit that we could petition New York State to increase at $250,000, because pretty much everybody has income or would pay income taxes or be able to receive the benefit of a credit even if you don't pay into it. So that would be more inclusive to any renters, students, and not just something that's on property owners. And also through an income tax credit, you have a bigger base to spread that cost about. Granted, I don't think this is going to be a large fiscal impact. And it's great that we have Lee, and Lee would have been my first call, but Lee called me first on this. So, based upon my quick conversations with him, I don't think it's a big impact. But if you do it through an income tax credit, there's a much larger base to spread that share across.
I see. And so if I could just follow up, that's really interesting. Could you say a little more? The county has the ability to ask the state to give an income tax credit for what? Just for our county?
Well, no, rather than, I would suggest that we would petition the feds or New York State in order to create one of these. So that if you are a volunteer fighter or an EMT, you could automatically get a $500 income tax credit as opposed to the $250 already.
And does that kind of thing, is that on a county by county basis, or that's a statewide income tax exemption or credit?
I think it would have to be statewide, but I don't know that yet. I know I have talked with our members of the state legislature about trying to incentivize green improvements made to properties. And the suggestion, since some of those improvements wouldn't increase assessed value, you couldn't be abated that increase. But if you did something, maybe you could get a dollar-to-dollar income tax credit. So they were looking at that. So the discussion of including this as an income tax credit stemmed from those prior discussions.
Thank you.
All right, we are getting a little short on time, but let's hear what some other folks have to say here. Travis.
I'll make this quick. I hear what Dan is saying about the equity issue and the fact that we're in a crisis, and I agree. But I would say this, that the same energy needs to be put into this to figure out how to bring more people into this tent and take advantage of an opportunity to volunteer. And maybe the way to go is what Jay was talking about with the income tax incentive or whatever. but we do have a crisis, and we have to solve it. And while we're trying to figure it out to make it as broad as possible for everybody, we need to do something in the meantime. So that's my 2 cents.
Great, thank you. Anne?
Thanks. I think we always need to be looking at things through the lens of equity, everything we do. So I would go even a step further, that whether we're in a crisis or not, we always need to be looking at that. Also, I believe it was Rich John who had said at some previous meeting that he would be taking the general issue up at public safety as to what are the options and talking with those groups about what is needed. So I would hope that discussion would happen there also.
Yeah, I think Rich had a lot of other ideas about other things that we could be doing or other options. This is here with us because we're the ones who work with assessment and look at these kinds of things. So this is just an initial discussion to get some background information. Greg?
Yeah, I agree with many things that folks have said. I do think we need to do something. I don't know if this is the right something, but I also am willing to try things to see if it is the right something. I would want to suggest that there's some data collection tied to this, that if we were to pass a resolution or we were to put this forward, that we put a time horizon, maybe it's 5 years or 6 years, to see if this does change the volunteer, if it does help solve the problem, or does it just reward current volunteers? I think we need to do something to track this. Who came to speak on this resolution? I'm blanking on his name at the moment. This was passed previously from a town that sent it to us in Newfield. Dublin. Yeah, sorry. One of the things, I apologize for my brain fog at the moment. The question around data, right? And how are we tracking this? How are we tracking the success of this? So I think it's really important that we put a metric or look at something if we are going to go this way. I don't want to try to necessarily spend or waste time or waste an opportunity to try to find a perfect solution to something that may not have a perfect solution. So I'm open to trying something. I just want to make sure that we're open to evaluating if it was the right solution in the future. And I know it's tough to give something and then potentially take something away, but I do think we need to either say it's something we may do temporarily or we're going to evaluate the benefit of it. But I don't know. And I think we're going to need to experiment with different ideas and see what works. And this may be one, this may not.
Yeah, great. I mean, you're all making great points. I know Lee has put together some actual numbers. So because we're coming up here on 2:00, I'm going to suggest that we bring this up again. Maybe, I don't know if you really got answers to your questions, Jay. But maybe we can have a little more information next time, maybe bring us a sample. It sounds like generally people do want to move forward with this and look at something, although everyone's acknowledging that it's not going to be the, magic, what do they say? Magic bullet? Is that what they say?
Panacea.
Silver bullet? Anyway. So what else do you feel like you want from us, Jay, going forward?
No, I think I got enough to at least give you something that will have options in it. So, we could say, all right, it's going to be 10%. All right, but do you want a cap or do you not want a cap? We've seemed to put in caps in some of our other exemptions. So when I go through these decisions, it'll be based upon what you did in other exemptions that we passed and kind of with that reasoning on there. So I could bring something back to June. I don't think even if we did something today and then did something on the 17th at the legislature, I don't think we would be able to get it passed in the 2022 legislative session. So we do have some time, at least until, October, November, when we got to get things going again for the state's 2023 legislative session. So I don't see a benefit to rushing this. But I think it's better to do it right and correctly first.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's still a lot of questions, so I don't think we'd be prepared to move ahead. Lee?
If I could just take just a few seconds. And I think that probably the big question that's in everybody's mind is what is the impact? And I can work with Jay and others to help you get to those numbers. But the short of it is, from what I'm looking at and using my department as a test case, if you had 300 property owners in the county now that were volunteer firefighters, and I think that's pushing it, at an average assessment based on what I looked at, you're looking at an overall impact of about $140,000 spread across all of the taxing entities. And if this were successful and we doubled that number and it became $280,000 spread across the county, the towns, the villages, the school districts, that is 1/1000th of the entire tax levies that are put out in the county. So it's not a major impact. It would be imperceptible if you if all of our governments granted it on any other taxpayer's tax bill on 35,000 parcels. So it's not like this is a huge number. It's not. But if it means a $500 savings to those who are homeowners living in their communities volunteering, that is an incentive they've never had before. And it's not as much recruitment, or it's just as much recruitment as it is retention in keeping those people in our communities active in their departments. That's the basis for this.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for putting together, he shared with me some numbers, which I'm sure you would probably share, maybe send it to the rest of the legislature. I'm sure folks would be interested in looking at that for Groton. All right, thank you so much, Jay. And thanks everyone for your comments. Let's just see if any of our administration folks have any reports. I don't have a committee chair report at this time. Lisa, is there anything you want to tell us? I do want to make the committee aware of one item, and that is of a grant opportunity that was brought to our attention by way of the Department of Planning and Sustainability through the Southern Tier 8 Planning and Development Agency. And there is money that is available from pandemic relief funds that were allocated to New York State through the Appalachian Regional Commission. And they want to get the money spent and out the door as soon as possible. The funding is for the purpose of planning. In our case, we would be applying for the purpose of county organization strategic planning. Organizations like us can apply for up to $250,000, but we need to show a one-to-one match. That match can be in kind. Or it can be through one-time funds. So it looks like each of the 8 counties in the ST8 region are going to be applying to use these funds. Some are going to be doing strategic plans, others county comprehensive plans, which we already have, and some to do specific plans like housing plans. The ST8 counties include Tompkins, Cortland, Tioga, Broome, Schoharie, Delaware, Otsego, and Shenango. We would need to apply for this grant by mid-July, and we would expect a formal award letter in September or October. My understanding from Katie is this funding is there and available and to some extent pre-approved for this purpose. If we were to get the award letter, which it sounds like we probably would, the clock would start to complete the project in 18 months.
And we would envision putting an application together on behalf of the county for an organizational strategic plan. County administration would partner with the Department of Planning and Sustainability on the grant application and to administer the grant. And we anticipate using the funds for a consultant to engage the organization in the process, which we've never done as an organization, and believe that it would be used the funding to purchase software to help track progress and make it easy to update in the future. So just more details to come as we are about to dive into the planning process, but I wanted to make you aware of that. I believe Katie's on also if there are questions that you have that I can't answer, or if Katie'd like to say more about it. Questions from anyone? Or I'll see if Katie wants to say anything else.
No, I'm just here to answer any questions you might have and support Lisa and show solidarity that we're ready to work together on it.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds like a good opportunity, and thank you for letting us know, and hopefully that will work out. All right, anything else, Lisa? That was it for me, thanks. Okay, Bill, do you have anything you want to tell us about?
I do not.
Right, Rick, do you have anything to report to us?
No, nothing urgent. We're in the beginning stages of our county audit and we're pretty swamped. So we'll try to keep our head above water.
Yes, definitely. And get outside every now and then to the sunshine. It'll help keep you sane. It will. Dominic, anything you want to tell us about?
Yep, just really briefly. One is that we've been doing a lot of problem solving on the streaming and Zooming. Rob, our new media production assistant, has been doing a great job on that work. So that's been going well. And also the branding guidelines is something I've updated this committee on in the past. We're getting very close to publishing those on the county website and linking them. So I'll share that page along to everyone once it is live. And that's what we used as well to inform the siren branding. I know we talked about that in depth at the full legislature meeting, but just as one example of an outcome of using that more consistent branding, that's one of the influences. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Great. Any questions for Dominic? All right, thanks for being here. Any comments or questions from committee members about anything? All right, we're only 2 minutes over time. I try to keep us on schedule. So thank you, everybody. Good discussions. Thank you, Kathy and Brittany, and we are adjourned. We talked a lot. I kept being like, it's just